Kennedy Jefferson's morning started with her usual clumsy chaos, which, on a wedding day, was only slightly more stressful than usual. She spun around her tiny Manhattan apartment, trying to zip her wedding dress while balancing on one foot, muttering under her breath, "Come on, Kennedy, you've got this." Sort of. The room was a mess of shoes, ribbons, and scattered invitations, but somehow it all seemed to fit her personality. Messy, frantic, and impossibly endearing. Today wasn't just about her wedding to Nelson Welch, it was also about the flight to Los Angeles, which she had insisted on taking with him. Nelson, calm and composed as always, watched from the doorway, holding two neatly packed suitcases. "Kennedy, are you sure you want to do this? You barely survived the idea of taking a flight to Boston last month," he said, raising an eyebrow with that quiet patience of his. Kennedy turned, holding the dress awkwardly, a look of determined terror in her eyes. "Nelson, I need to be there. It's my wedding, and I can't let you go alone. I'll be fine. Mostly. I just need a little courage and maybe a full bottle of Xanax," she joked nervously, attempting to smooth her wrinkled dress. By the time they arrived at JFK Airport, Kennedy's anxiety had escalated into full-blown panic. The bustling airport only heightened her fears. The constant announcements, rolling suitcases, and crowded security lines made her feel like she might collapse at any second. She clutched Nelson's arm, muttering, "I feel like everyone is staring at me and judging me and possibly plotting my death on this plane." Nelson laughed softly, trying to calm her. "You're imagining it. Nobody's plotting anything. We'll be in Los Angeles in a few hours, and then it'll all be over." When they reached the gate, Kennedy's stomach churned as she watched the airplane taxi to the runway. Every sound of engines or movement of the boarding bridge made her grip Nelson's arm tighter. I can't do it," she whispered, her voice trembling. Nelson knelt beside her, brushing back her hair. "Yes, you can. Just breathe with me, okay? In and out. Deep breaths." Kennedy's hands were clammy and her heart raced like a jackhammer. She nodded, taking a deep breath, but the moment the flight attendant's voice announced boarding, her knees went weak. The airplane itself was a beast of metal and noise. Kennedy's anxiety amplified as she navigated the narrow aisle, trying not to trip over her own feet or spill anyone's coffee. "Excuse me, coming through?" she squeaked repeatedly, waving her arms like a frantic conductor. Finally, she reached her seat beside Nelson, only to find herself gripping the armrest so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The flight attendant smiled, giving her a reassuring nod, but Kennedy barely noticed. She turned to Nelson, her eyes wide and panicked. "I don't know if I can do this. What if something goes wrong?" Nelson squeezed her hand. "Nothing's going to go wrong. I'm right here with you. We'll get through it together." His voice was steady, calm, and rational. Everything Kennedy was not. The plane began to taxi, and her heart skipped several beats. She muttered under her breath, "Oh no, oh no, oh no," over and over. Each rumble of the engines seemed like a warning, each vibration a premonition of disaster. As the plane took off, Kennedy's panic escalated into sheer chaos. She grabbed Nelson's hand with both of hers, trembling violently. I can't, she shrieked. Passengers nearby turned to stare, some wide-eyed, some amused, others clearly annoyed. Nelson tried to calm her. "Kennedy, look at me. Focus on me, not the plane." But the more he spoke, the more the terror seemed to amplify. Kennedy twisted in her seat, accidentally kicking the tray table of the man in front of her. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Oh God, it's moving," she cried, nearly toppling into the aisle. The flight attendants rushed over, trying to calm her. "Ma'am, please, just sit back and breathe," one said, reaching for her. Kennedy's attempts at calm were futile. She felt trapped in a cage that was speeding down a runway, rising into the sky. Minutes felt like hours as she muttered prayers, curses, and frantic self-coaching. She imagined every possible disaster: the plane plunging into the Atlantic, getting lost over the Rockies, engines failing mid-air, or simply fainting and causing a catastrophe. Her imagination ran wild. Nelson's hand was like an anchor, but even that wasn't enough. Finally, the panic reached its peak. Kennedy jerked out of her seat with startling agility, shouting, "I can't do this! I'm leaving!" before the attendants could stop her. Passengers gasped, and Nelson jumped up, trying to grab her arm. "Kennedy, no, you can't just—" But she was already bolting toward the emergency exit at the front of the plane. Flight attendants tried to stop her, but Kennedy's determination, fueled by sheer terror, propelled her forward. By the time she reached the exit, her heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear anything else. Sweat ran down her temples, and her hair was sticking to her forehead. I'm okay, she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. She made it down the jet bridge and onto solid ground, gasping for air as if she had run a marathon. Nelson followed, breathless, his face a mix of frustration and relief. You did it," he said, exasperated. "You escaped the plane." Kennedy collapsed onto a nearby bench, her wedding dress rumpled, shoes half off, but a victorious grin on her face. I survived, sort of, but never again. I'm not doing that, ever." Nelson knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We'll find another way, Kennedy. We'll get to Los Angeles somehow. Maybe by train, maybe by boat. I don't care. You're not getting on another plane until you're ready." Kennedy nodded weakly, her nerves still frayed, but a small smile tugged at her lips. "You know, maybe I need a sedative for the wedding, too." Nelson laughed, shaking his head. "I think that's a given." And despite the chaos, the clumsiness, and the terror, Kennedy couldn't help but feel that this day, terrifying as it had been, was just the beginning of an adventure she would never forget.
A few days after her chaotic escape from JFK, Kennedy Jefferson sat slumped on her cream-colored couch, her wedding dress still hanging in the corner, slightly wrinkled from the frenzy of packing and unpacking. The apartment, normally neat, looked like a tornado had passed through it, leaving scattered magazines, half-empty cups of coffee, and Nelson's neatly folded suits in disarray. Kennedy nursed a glass of iced tea, hoping that the sweet, cold liquid could soothe her still frayed nerves. Her phone buzzed across the coffee table, the name flashing Nelson Welch in bright letters. She froze, heart skipping a beat. "Please don't," she whispered to herself, gripping the phone tightly. She had spent the past 48 hours trying to avoid thinking about him, trying to convince herself that maybe his brief absence would give her clarity. But now, staring at his name, she knew she couldn't ignore it. With a shaky exhale, she swiped to answer. "Hello?" she said, her voice cautious yet hopeful. Kennedy." Nelson's voice was slurred, uneven, and Kennedy immediately recognized that familiar, intoxicated tone. Her heart sank. "Nelson, what's going on? Are you okay?" she asked, a flicker of concern piercing through her anxiety. I can't do this anymore," he stammered. The words hit her like a blow. She blinked, refusing to let the panic rise too quickly. "Wait, what do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her efforts to remain composed. There was a long pause on the other end, punctuated only by Nelson's deep sighs and the occasional clink of glass. I fell for someone else, Kennedy. I can't stop thinking about her." Kennedy's stomach dropped as the words sank in. "Someone else? Who?" she asked, though a part of her already feared the answer. "Nicole Jordan," he admitted, almost whispering her name, as if saying it aloud made it more real. Kennedy felt a sharp sting in her chest, her nails digging into her palms. No, Nelson, this isn't real. You can't be serious, she said, her voice cracking despite her best attempt to keep it steady. But the slurred confidence in his voice confirmed her worst fears. I'm sorry, Kennedy. I can't marry you. I love her, and I can't pretend otherwise, he confessed. Tears pricked Kennedy's eyes as she sank back into the couch, trying to process the devastating news. You're breaking up with me over the phone while drunk? She asked incredulously, her voice trembling with anger and heartbreak. Nelson let out a low, sorrowful groan. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I can't lie to you anymore, he muttered, words slurred but heavy with guilt. Kennedy's mind spun, visions of wedding plans, flowers, and promises she had dreamed of dancing through her head. So, all those plans, all those dreams, they meant nothing to you? She asked, her voice a mix of hurt and disbelief. Kennedy, He tried to respond, but his inebriation made it impossible to form coherent sentences. Kennedy pressed her hand against her mouth to stifle a sob, her thoughts racing. She could hear the faint hum of a street in the background of the call, the kind of muffled noise that made everything feel distant and unreal. Listen, Nelson, I don't care if you're drunk, tipsy, or sober. You don't just call someone and end everything like it's nothing, she said, trying to regain control of her emotions. I know I messed up. He slurred again, and she couldn't even finish listening. With a sharp inhale, she cut him off. No, Nelson, I can't do this anymore.
Kennedy ended the call and sank into the couch, clutching her phone like it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. Her mind swirled with a mixture of grief, anger, and disbelief. She thought about the wedding they had planned, the vows they had rehearsed in private, and the countless moments of laughter and love she had imagined sharing with him. And now, in a single phone call, it all seemed to crumble like fragile glass. But as she sat there, wallowing in heartbreak, a spark of determination flickered inside her. Kennedy was nothing if not resilient, even when clumsy or terrified. She pressed her hands to her face, taking a deep, shuddering breath, and whispered to herself, "I'm not giving up. I won't let him go this easily." The thought of losing Nelson to Nicole filled her with a strange mix of desperation and resolve. She wasn't just going to cry and let him walk away, she was going to fight, even if it meant confronting her deepest fears. Standing abruptly, she paced across the apartment, muttering ideas out loud. Planes. I can't even stand the thought of a plane. But Los Angeles. Nelson. I can't let him go without trying. Her previous fear of flying seemed insignificant compared to the fire of determination that now coursed through her veins. Her apartment suddenly felt too small, too confining, as though the walls themselves were pressing her to act. Kennedy grabbed her laptop and opened the airline website, fingers trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement. Okay, I can do this. Just one flight to win him back, she muttered, her eyes scanning for available flights. As she booked her ticket, a nervous laugh escaped her lips. Kennedy Jefferson, Queen of Chaos, ready to conquer the skies and possibly get rejected again, she whispered, shaking her head at her own audacity. Packing again was a whirlwind of clumsy efficiency. She threw clothes into her suitcase haphazardly, muttering, "I'll figure it out. Maybe. Probably." Her wedding dress, now wrinkled from her frantic movements, was shoved to the side, replaced by casual outfits for her Los Angeles adventure. Kennedy paused for a moment, staring at herself in the mirror. Okay, deep breaths. You've survived planes before. Sort of. You've survived heartbreak before. Sort of. Now let's see if you can survive Nelson Welch. By the time she left her apartment for JFK again, Kennedy's mind was a mixture of anxiety, anticipation, and determination. Her taxi ride was filled with muttered pep talks, hands gripping her purse like a lifeline. "You're brave, you're strong, you can do this. Maybe," she whispered, offering herself both encouragement and self-deprecating humor. The city whizzed by outside, but Kennedy's thoughts were entirely on the adventure ahead and on the man who had, for a moment, seemed to take her heart and break it into pieces. As she stepped into the terminal, ticket in hand and suitcase dragging behind her, her pulse raced with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. She was terrified of the flight, terrified of what awaited her in Los Angeles, but more than anything, she was determined. This wasn't just a trip, it was her chance to reclaim what she felt was hers, and no plane, turbulence, or drunken confession was going to stop her. Kennedy paused at the security checkpoint, took a deep, steadying breath, and whispered to herself, "Nelson Welch, you better be ready, because Kennedy Jefferson is coming for you." With that, she squared her shoulders, tightened her grip on her carry-on, and stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face both her fears and her broken heart head-on.
A few days after her chaotic escape from JFK, Kennedy Jefferson sat slumped on her cream-colored couch, her wedding dress still hanging in the corner, slightly wrinkled from the frenzy of packing and unpacking. The apartment, normally neat, looked like a tornado had passed through it, leaving scattered magazines, half-empty cups of coffee, and Nelson's neatly folded suits in disarray. Kennedy nursed a glass of iced tea, hoping that the sweet, cold liquid could soothe her still frayed nerves. Her phone buzzed across the coffee table, the name flashing Nelson Welch in bright letters. She froze, heart skipping a beat. "Please don't," she whispered to herself, gripping the phone tightly. She had spent the past 48 hours trying to avoid thinking about him, trying to convince herself that maybe his brief absence would give her clarity. But now, staring at his name, she knew she couldn't ignore it. With a shaky exhale, she swiped to answer. "Hello?" she said, her voice cautious yet hopeful. Kennedy." Nelson's voice was slurred, uneven, and Kennedy immediately recognized that familiar, intoxicated tone. Her heart sank. "Nelson, what's going on? Are you okay?" she asked, a flicker of concern piercing through her anxiety. I can't do this anymore," he stammered. The words hit her like a blow. She blinked, refusing to let the panic rise too quickly. "Wait, what do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her efforts to remain composed. There was a long pause on the other end, punctuated only by Nelson's deep sighs and the occasional clink of glass. I fell for someone else, Kennedy. I can't stop thinking about her." Kennedy's stomach dropped as the words sank in. "Someone else? Who?" she asked, though a part of her already feared the answer. "Nicole Jordan," he admitted, almost whispering her name, as if saying it aloud made it more real. Kennedy felt a sharp sting in her chest, her nails digging into her palms. No, Nelson, this isn't real. You can't be serious," she said, her voice cracking despite her best attempt to keep it steady. But the slurred confidence in his voice confirmed her worst fears. I'm sorry, Kennedy. I can't marry you. I love her, and I can't pretend otherwise," he confessed. Tears pricked Kennedy's eyes as she sank back into the couch, trying to process the devastating news. You're breaking up with me over the phone while drunk?" she asked incredulously, her voice trembling with anger and heartbreak. Nelson let out a low, sorrowful groan. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I can't lie to you anymore," he muttered, words slurred but heavy with guilt. Kennedy's mind spun, visions of wedding plans, flowers, and promises she had dreamed of dancing through her head. "So, all those plans, all those dreams, they meant nothing to you?" she asked, her voice a mix of hurt and disbelief. Kennedy, He tried to respond, but his inebriation made it impossible to form coherent sentences. Kennedy pressed her hand against her mouth to stifle a sob, her thoughts racing. She could hear the faint hum of a street in the background of the call, the kind of muffled noise that made everything feel distant and unreal. Listen, Nelson, I don't care if you're drunk, tipsy, or sober. You don't just call someone and end everything like it's nothing, she said, trying to regain control of her emotions. I know I messed up. He slurred again, and she couldn't even finish listening. With a sharp inhale, she cut him off. No, Nelson, I can't do this anymore.
Kennedy Jefferson clutched the armrests of her seat like they were the only things keeping her from floating into the stratosphere. The hum of the engines, the vibration of the plane, and the sudden bump of turbulence made her heart race uncontrollably. She had promised herself she could handle this flight, yet now she was reconsidering that decision every second. Her fingers dug into the vinyl armrests as she muttered under her breath, "You can do this, Kennedy. Just don't scream, maybe don't cry, mostly don't scream." As the plane leveled off, a shadow fell over her tray table. Kennedy glanced up to see a man settling into the seat beside her. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with an easy confidence that made him seem both intriguing and intimidating. Dark hair fell slightly into his eyes, and there was a mischievous spark in the curve of his mouth. "Hi," he said smoothly, offering a half-smile. "I'm Shane." Kennedy blinked, startled by his casual calmness, and mumbled, "Kennedy," before turning back to her window, hoping he wouldn't notice the way her hands were shaking. Shane's eyes, however, were keen. He tilted his head, observing her fidgeting and white-knuckled grip on the armrest. "You're not exactly comfortable with this flight, are you?" he asked, an eyebrow arched teasingly. Kennedy's cheeks flushed a deep crimson, and she sputtered, It's fine. I mean, I've flown before, sort of. Not really." Shane chuckled, the sound deep and amused. "Well, I happen to know a few tricks to make flying a lot less boring and a lot more exciting," he said, a playful glint in his eye. Kennedy's curiosity was piqued despite herself. "Exciting? Did you say exciting? There's nothing exciting about being trapped in a metal tube at 30,000 feet, she protested, though her voice wavered with a mix of nervous laughter and fear. Shane leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Oh, but that's where you're wrong. It's all about perspective. For example, did you know you can do a perfect handstand in the aisle during turbulence?" Kennedy's eyes widened in disbelief, and she took an instinctive step back. "You're joking," she said, her tone a mixture of incredulity and alarm. Shane shook his head gravely, as if delivering a solemn truth. "Absolutely not. I once did a full backflip down the aisle during a storm. People applauded. Well, after they stopped screaming." Kennedy couldn't help but giggle nervously, the absurdity of the claim breaking through her anxiety for a fleeting moment. You did what?" she asked, laughing and clutching her seat. Shane smirked, clearly enjoying her reaction. "Exactly. See? Flying can be thrilling if you let it." The plane hit a small patch of turbulence, and Kennedy's heart jumped into her throat. She instinctively grabbed Shane's arm, squeezing tightly. "Okay, maybe not thrilling in that way," she muttered. Shane, unflustered, leaned back and crossed his arms. "Or maybe just thrilling enough to keep you alive. Adrenaline's a powerful thing." Kennedy rolled her eyes, though her pulse was already slowing slightly from the distraction. For the first time in minutes, she felt less like a hostage of the skies. Trying to distract herself further, Kennedy peeked into her bag to find a small journal and pen. "I write when I fly," she confessed, glancing at Shane. It helps me deal with the fear." Shane raised an intrigued eyebrow. "Write about what?" he asked. Kennedy bit her lip. "Anything that pops into my head, mostly complaints about how terrified I am, and sometimes dreams. Big, impossible dreams." Shane nodded thoughtfully,
then leaned closer. "I like dreams," he said softly, his tone sincere, yet his mischievous grin returned seconds later, especially the ones that seem impossible but make you feel alive. The flight attendant appeared in the aisle carrying a cart of drinks. Kennedy's hand trembled as she reached for a cup of water, only to knock it over entirely, sending it spilling onto Shane's lap. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to," she exclaimed, flailing her arms. Shane blinked down at the soaked fabric of his pants, then looked up at her and laughed, shaking his head. "Well, that's one way to break the ice," he said with a grin, dabbing at the water with a napkin. Kennedy's face turned crimson, and she stammered, I swear, I'm usually not this clumsy."
Shane leaned back, still chuckling, and said, "Clumsy? No. Adorable, yes, but maybe you should keep your drinks away from me during turbulence." Kennedy couldn't help but giggle again, her earlier panic melting slightly in the warmth of his humor. Despite the chaos and her fear, she found herself drawn to his calm yet playful presence. There was something about Shane that made the endless sky outside seem a little less intimidating. As the plane ascended further, Kennedy's gaze wandered to Shane's tray table. Something caught her eye, a small, neatly wrapped cloth over a tiny potted plant. "That's unusual," she murmured. Shane noticed her glance and smirked, leaning casually in his seat. Yes, that's my little travel companion. Keeps me grounded, you know." Kennedy tilted her head, intrigued, though still suspicious. "A plant? In a plane? Really?" Shane nodded solemnly. "Well, it's also a bit of a secret," he said, his voice dropping into a hushed, mysterious tone. Kennedy's curiosity grew, her fear momentarily forgotten. "A secret?" she asked, leaning closer. Shane leaned back and smirked, refusing to reveal more just yet. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just something to make the flight more interesting. You'll have to wait and see." Kennedy blinked, caught between exasperation and intrigue. "You are very mysterious and annoying," she said, though a small smile tugged at her lips. Shane laughed, the sound rich and teasing. "Annoying is an art form, you know? I'm a master at it." Minutes turned into what felt like hours as Shane continued his antics, teasing, provoking, and daring her with small, harmless bets. At one point, he challenged her to balance on the edge of her seat during minor turbulence, which she refused with mock indignation. "You are insane," she exclaimed, gripping the armrest tightly. Shane merely shrugged, his eyes twinkling. "Maybe, but I promise it keeps your mind off being scared." Kennedy had to admit, he was right. Her fear was still there, gnawing at her heart, but Shane's presence made it manageable, even oddly exciting. By the time the seatbelt sign turned off and the plane leveled into smooth flight, Kennedy realized that she had forgotten, for brief moments at least, that she was terrified of flying. Shane had distracted her completely, and despite herself, she felt a flutter of anticipation for what might come next. "You know, you're kind of effective," she admitted, her voice softer, less guarded. Shane smiled, leaning back with an air of mock pride. "I aim to please, or at least to keep you alive and entertained." As the sun set outside, painting the clouds in shades of gold and orange, Kennedy couldn't help but feel a strange sense of connection to the man beside her. Shane Sullivan, mysterious, daring, and annoyingly charming, had turned a flight she had feared into an adventure. One filled with laughter, teasing, and a hint of danger. And though she wouldn't admit it out loud yet, Kennedy felt that her life, like this flight, was about to take a turn she could never have predicted.
The plane jolted violently as it hit a sudden patch of turbulence, sending Kennedy Jefferson's stomach into a chaotic freefall. Her knuckles whitened as she gripped the armrests, heart racing, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," she whispered repeatedly, her voice shaking. Shane Sullivan, seated beside her, appeared completely unbothered, casually sipping from his water cup. Kennedy's panic, however, had other plans. As the plane shook again, her hand trembled violently, causing her drink to lurch forward and splash directly onto Shane's lap.
"Oh my God, I am so sorry," Kennedy exclaimed, jumping up slightly in embarrassment. "I didn't mean—" Shane looked down at his now soaked pants, then back at her, and let out a low, amused chuckle. "Well, that's one way to make an entrance," he said with a smirk, dabbing at the damp fabric from his own pocket. Kennedy's cheeks burned crimson. "I'm usually not this clumsy," she mumbled, flustered and fumbling with her seatbelt. Shane's teasing grin only widened. "Clumsy, yes. Adorable? Absolutely. But don't worry, you're not in trouble yet." Kennedy, still hyperventilating slightly, tried to focus on anything besides the chaotic turbulence and the fact that she had just ruined Shane's pants. How are you so calm?" she asked incredulously. Shane leaned back lazily, stretching one arm along the top of the seat. "Experience," he said simply. "Or perhaps I just enjoy watching people panic." Kennedy narrowed her eyes, pretending to be annoyed. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" Shane's smirk only grew. "Absolutely. But don't worry, I'll save the best chaos for later." After a few more minutes of turbulence, the plane finally steadied. Kennedy wiped her damp hands on her skirt, attempting to regain some composure. That's when she noticed something unusual about Shane. Beneath the cloth he had on his lap, she glimpsed a small, neatly wrapped potted plant. Its leaves were glossy and vibrant, and it seemed oddly out of place amidst the cramped metallic airplane seats. "What's with the plant?" she asked, leaning slightly toward him. Shane glanced down, then back at her with a playful twinkle in his eye. "This?" he said, lifting the small pot for her to see. "Oh, that's just a little companion of mine. Keeps me calm and, occasionally, solves problems." Kennedy tilted her head, intrigued despite herself. "Solves problems? How does a plant do that?" Shane leaned closer, lowering his voice as if he was about to reveal a grand secret. "Ah, that's part of the magic," he said, smiling mysteriously. Kennedy felt a shiver of curiosity. Was this just another of Shane's teasing games, or something more? The rest of the flight passed in an uneasy rhythm. Kennedy's anxiety had calmed slightly thanks to Shane's distractions, but her attention kept returning to the small plant. Finally, an urge overcame Shane, and he motioned for Kennedy to follow him toward the airplane restroom. She hesitated for a moment, her heart racing with apprehension, but curiosity won out. "Okay, this better not be some weird prank," she said, stepping beside him. Shane chuckled softly. "No pranks, just a little truth." Inside the cramped restroom, Shane set the plant on the counter and unfolded the cloth carefully. Kennedy leaned in, eyes widening as she saw a small, glittering diamond necklace tucked neatly beneath the soil. "Wait, is that?" she began, but Shane cut her off, holding a finger to his lips. "Shh, not so loud," he whispered. "Yes, it's exactly what you think. Manhattan, stolen. But before you freak out, let me explain." Kennedy's mind raced. You stole it? Are you serious?" Shane nodded solemnly, his usual playful tone replaced by something more serious.
"This isn't about greed," he said quietly. "It's complicated. Someone I love, someone very dear, needs help, and this is the only way I could raise enough money fast enough. I never meant for anyone to get hurt." Kennedy stared at him, torn between fear, curiosity, and the faintest spark of admiration for his boldness. "And you thought smuggling it on a plane with me next to you was a good idea?" she asked incredulously. Shane grinned faintly. "It was either that or risk losing the opportunity completely. Besides, I trusted that you wouldn't notice." Kennedy's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "I didn't notice yet." "But you're crazy," she said, half laughing and half exasperated. Shane leaned back against the counter, smirking. "Maybe, but sometimes a little crazy is exactly what life needs." Kennedy, though still uneasy, couldn't help but feel a strange thrill at his daring. "So, what am I supposed to do with this?" she asked, gesturing toward the necklace. Shane's eyes met hers, earnest and intense. "Nothing. For now. Just keep it safe." Before she could respond, Shane carefully slipped the diamond necklace into the bottom of her bag, hidden beneath her belongings, ensuring she didn't notice. Kennedy was completely unaware, but her mind buzzed with questions. "Wait, what did you just—" she started to ask, but Shane held up a hand. "All will be revealed later. For now, just trust me." Kennedy tilted her head, skeptical but unable to find the courage to argue. There was something about Shane, his audacity, his confidence, and perhaps his sincerity that made her want to believe him, despite the danger. As they exited the restroom and returned to their seats, Shane resumed his teasing demeanor, making light of the turbulence that returned sporadically. "See? A little shake, a little spill, a little secret, and suddenly the flight isn't so boring anymore." Kennedy shook her head, half laughing and half exasperated. "You really are insane," she said. Shane shrugged modestly. "Or brilliant. Sometimes the two are hard to tell apart." Throughout the remainder of the flight, Kennedy found herself distracted, not by her fear, but by Shane's unpredictability. Every time she tried to think about the plane, the city below, or her own anxieties, Shane's words, gestures, and mischievous smirks pulled her attention elsewhere. And somewhere, deep down, she realized that the thrill of not knowing what Shane might do next was far more compelling than her terror of the skies. By the time the plane began its descent into Los Angeles, Kennedy's nerves had calmed significantly, though the adrenaline still lingered. Shane leaned slightly toward her and whispered, "See, sometimes the scariest parts of life are also the most exciting. You just need the right distraction." Kennedy smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and admiration in her eyes. "You are definitely the most unusual distraction I've ever had," she said. Shane's grin broadened, "And I plan to stay unusual for as long as you'll let me." As the wheels touched down at LAX, Kennedy felt a strange sense of anticipation. The flight, which had begun as a nightmare of panic and fear, had transformed into something exhilarating and mysterious. Shane Sullivan had introduced chaos, excitement, and secrets into her life, and she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of an adventure she would never forget. Kennedy Jefferson exhaled sharply as the wheels of the plane screeched against the runway, signaling the end of her turbulent journey. The descent had been surprisingly smooth, despite Shane's occasional jokes about mid-air stunts, but her body still buzzed with adrenaline. She adjusted her seatbelt, grabbed her carry-on, and muttered to herself, "I survived. Again. Barely." Shane leaned back in his seat, smirking, clearly proud of himself for keeping her distracted. "See? Told you turbulence could be fun," he said, giving her a playful wink. Kennedy shot him a look that was part exasperation, part reluctant amusement. As they shuffled down the aisle, passengers bustled past, grabbing their bags and exchanging farewells. Kennedy clutched her handbag tightly, unaware of the small secret nestled at the bottom. A diamond necklace Shane had carefully slipped into it during the restroom incident. She had no idea that her life had just become significantly more complicated. "Next time," she muttered under her breath, shaking her head, "I'm flying first class. Maybe they'll have a bubble to protect me from, well, everything." Shane laughed behind her, the sound deep and warm. "Bubbles don't prepare you for life, Kennedy, but chaos? Chaos does." The terminal at LAX was sprawling, bright, and overwhelming. Kennedy's senses were assaulted by the din of rolling luggage, loud announcements, and the constant chatter of travelers. She clung to Shane's arm as they navigated the crowded concourse. "So, where exactly are we going?" she asked, a mix of curiosity and lingering nervousness in her voice. Shane's grin widened, but he shook his head. "Patience, Kennedy. We're here, yes, but the fun part starts after you get your bearings. Follow me." Kennedy gave a nervous laugh, muttering, "Follow the guy with the stolen necklace. Seems safe enough."
Reaching the baggage claim area, Kennedy's anxiety shifted from her fear of flying to the challenge of finding her suitcase among hundreds of others. She leaned on Shane slightly, grateful for his presence. "You know, you might be the only person I've ever flown with who made this bearable," she admitted quietly. Shane glanced at her with an amused tilt of his head. "Bearable? That's high praise coming from someone who nearly freaked out in the aisle," he teased. Kennedy shot him a look that was part exasperation, part reluctant amusement. Minutes later, her suitcase finally appeared on the conveyor belt, slightly battered but intact. She grabbed it and heaved it toward herself, sighing in relief. Shane handed her a napkin to wipe her sweaty palms. "Survived the flight, survived the luggage hunt. What's next on the Kennedy Jefferson adventure?" he asked, amusement dancing in his eyes. Kennedy groaned, glancing around the bustling terminal. "So now I find a cab, find a hotel, and try not to accidentally set Los Angeles on fire," she said half-jokingly. Shane laughed, picking up his own bag. "Then let's not waste time. Adventure waits for no one."
Outside, the California sun was bright and hot, casting long shadows across the terminal's pavement. Kennedy shielded her eyes with her hand, squinting as she scanned the area for a cab. The noise, heat, and sheer size of LAX made her feel both exhilarated and overwhelmed. Shane, cool and collected, hailed a taxi effortlessly. "After you," he said, opening the door for her. Kennedy hesitated only a moment before stepping inside, fumbling slightly as she tried to wedge her oversized suitcase into the trunk. "I swear, one day I'll be able to do this without nearly dislocating my shoulder," she muttered. Shane's chuckle followed her into the cab. As the cab weaved through Los Angeles traffic, Kennedy stared out the window at the sprawling cityscape, trying to calm her nerves. Her mind kept drifting to Nelson, Nicole, and the mission she had set for herself to win Nelson back, no matter the cost. Los Angeles, so big, so confusing, so far from New York, she murmured. Shane, sitting beside her, leaned back casually, observing her with interest. "You're thinking about him, aren't you?" he asked, his tone gentle but teasing. Kennedy flushed and avoided his gaze. "Maybe, a little, but I'm not going to let him ruin this trip." Shane's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Good! Focus on the adventure, Kennedy. Los Angeles has a way of surprising people." Kennedy, unsure if he meant that as a warning or a challenge, simply nodded, gripping her seat tightly. The cab ride continued in relative silence, punctuated by Shane's occasional quips about the city, its infamous traffic, and his favorite hidden spots. Kennedy couldn't help but laugh at some of his stories, the sound mingling with the hum of the cab's engine. Finally, they arrived at the hotel, a sleek, modern building with mirrored windows that reflected the bright California sun. Kennedy stepped out of the cab, glancing at Shane. "Okay, deep breaths. Hotel, room, mission, find Nelson, survive the next level of chaos," she muttered to herself. Shane handed her the suitcase, and she followed him inside. The lobby was buzzing with guests checking in, and the smell of coffee and fresh flowers filled the air. Kennedy's nerves were still taut, but the familiarity of the hotel setting gave her a small sense of control. After checking in, Kennedy dragged her suitcase to the elevator, Shane beside her. "So, now that we're here, what's your plan?" he asked casually. Kennedy hesitated, her mind racing. "Plan? The plan is survive LA, find Nelson, win him back, and somehow not mess everything up," she admitted. Shane nodded as though he understood entirely. "Ambitious. I like it. Dangerous, but ambitious," he said with a wry smile. Kennedy oiled her eyes, muttering, "You're enjoying this way too much." As they stepped into the hotel room, Kennedy set her suitcase down and flopped on the bed, exhausted. She barely noticed the small weight in her handbag, the hidden diamond necklace Shane had entrusted to her. "I swear, one day I'll be able to do this without nearly dislocating my shoulder," she muttered. Shane's chuckle followed her into the cab.
Kennedy Jefferson had barely closed the door to her hotel room when she realized something was wrong. Her suitcase, the very one she had lugged across Los Angeles with painstaking effort, was gone. Panic shot through her chest as she frantically searched the room, tossing clothes onto the bed and pulling drawers open. No, this can't be happening, she exclaimed, her voice rising in desperation. Shane, who had been leaning casually against the wall, raised an eyebrow at her. "What's wrong?" he asked, moving closer, his eyes scanning the empty corner where her luggage had been. Kennedy spun toward him, hair slightly mussed from her frantic searching. "My suitcase, it's gone. Someone took it." Shane's lips curved into a half smile, half grimace. "Well, looks like your adventure in LA is getting off to a wild start," he said, trying to lighten the mood. Kennedy shot him a look that could melt steel. "This is not funny, Shane." He held up his hands in mock surrender. "I'm not laughing at the loss, it's just the timing. You just survived a chaotic flight, and now your luggage disappears. Classic Kennedy Jefferson." Kennedy groaned, throwing herself onto the bed in frustration. "I cannot believe this. First the plane, then the city, and now this. Why does everything happen to me?" Shane crouched slightly, lowering his tone. "Maybe everything happens to you because you're meant to handle it, in style." Kennedy blinked, half incredulous and half annoyed. "Style? Is that what we're calling it?" She called the front desk in a flurry of nerves, explaining that her luggage had vanished. The attendant promised to investigate immediately, but warned it could take some time. Kennedy's heart raced as she hung up. "This is a disaster," she muttered, pacing in small circles. Shane followed her, a reassuring presence despite his easygoing demeanor. "Or an opportunity," he suggested, tilting his head. "An opportunity," Kennedy's voice rose in incredulity. "To what? Experience more chaos? Lose everything valuable? Maybe get kidnapped?" Shane laughed softly. "Maybe. Or maybe to see how resourceful you really are." Kennedy stopped pacing, throwing her hands in the air. "Resourceful? Shane, I'm already a nervous wreck, and now I'm supposed to be resourceful?" Shane's grin softened as he stepped closer. "Kennedy, hey, take a deep breath. Let me help you. 2 heads are better than 1. Trust me, I'm very good at finding lost things." Kennedy's initial instinct was to protest, but there was something about his calm, confident energy that made her nod, albeit reluctantly. "Fine, but only because I have no other choice," she muttered. They began retracing her steps, checking with hotel staff, security, and even nearby guests who might have witnessed the disappearance. Shane was methodical yet playful, keeping her on edge with his witty observations. "See that guy over there?" he whispered, pointing subtly. "He looks like he knows something. Or maybe he just looks suspicious because he's wearing sunglasses indoors. Either way, interesting." Kennedy rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a small laugh. "You're ridiculous," she said, shaking her head. Shane merely smirked. "Ridiculous, yes. Helpful, also yes. Multi-talented." Hours passed as they combed through the lobby, filing reports and checking surveillance footage. Kennedy felt the frustration mounting, but Shane stayed near her, offering both practical suggestions and occasional comic relief. At one point, when a bellhop accidentally dropped a tray of drinks nearby, Shane caught the tumbling cups and handed them back with a flourish. Kennedy stared at him, half exasperated, half impressed. "Seriously, you do everything in this city?" Shane shrugged modestly. "Almost. I specialize in chaos management." Despite the absurdity of the situation, Kennedy found herself gradually relaxing in Shane's presence. He had a way of making her feel both safe and exhilarated at the same time, a rare combination that left her heart beating faster than usual. "You know," she said quietly, pausing as they reviewed the hotel's security feed, "I don't even know your real reason for being here, besides helping me, I mean." Shane tilted his head, regarding her with an unreadable expression. "Let's just say I have my reasons, personal reasons. But don't worry. None of them are dangerous. For now."
Kennedy couldn't help but chuckle at the warning.
"You're really pushing the line between charming and completely maddening," she said, adjusting her bag nervously. Shane leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. "Maddening, maybe. Charming, definitely. You'll see." Kennedy felt heat rise to her cheeks, and she quickly looked away, trying to focus on the task at hand. The stolen luggage, the lost necklace she didn't yet realize she had, and her mission to find Nelson all demanded attention, yet Shane's presence distracted her more than she wanted to admit. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a hotel staff member returned with news. "Miss Jefferson, your luggage has been located. It was mistakenly taken to another floor during room service deliveries," the attendant explained, handing over a slightly scuffed suitcase. Kennedy practically leapt forward, grabbing it with unrestrained relief. "Oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you," she exclaimed, hugging the suitcase like it was a long-lost friend. Shane smirked, observing her dramatic relief. "See, adventure pays off. Eventually." As Kennedy unpacked, Shane leaned casually against the doorway. "So, what's next for our fearless heroine?" he asked, clearly enjoying her mix of exasperation and excitement. Kennedy paused, her gaze lingering on him longer than necessary. "Next, surviving Los Angeles and finding Nelson," she said firmly, though her voice carried a softer undertone she didn't entirely recognize. Shane's eyes sparkled with amusement and something deeper. "And what if the adventure takes a detour?" he asked, a subtle challenge in his tone. Kennedy blinked at him. "What do you mean?" Shane's smile widened. "Sometimes, detours are more interesting than the original plan. You might find something, or someone, unexpected." Kennedy felt a shiver run down her spine, a mix of confusion, intrigue, and a sudden awareness of the chemistry between them. She shook her head, attempting to focus. I need to focus on Nelson," though her words sounded less convincing even to herself. Shane nodded, but the playful glint in his eyes suggested he didn't entirely believe her. As the evening settled over Los Angeles, the city lights flickered outside the hotel window, casting a soft glow into the room. Kennedy sat on the bed, suitcase open, sorting through her clothes, while Shane leaned against the wall, casually observing her. The tension between them was subtle but undeniable, an electric undercurrent beneath the chaos of missing luggage and stolen necklaces. Kennedy realized that despite the stress, she felt a strange sense of gratitude for Shane's presence. He had turned what could have been a disaster into a controlled storm of excitement, chaos, and, strangely, comfort. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Kennedy leaned back against the headboard, exhausted, but strangely exhilarated. Shane approached, handing her a bottle of water with a wink. "Adventure's hard work. You need to stay hydrated." Kennedy smiled, taking the bottle. "Thanks for, helping, even though you're ridiculous." Shane chuckled softly. "I'll take that as a compliment. And don't worry, Kennedy. This is just the beginning." Kennedy's eyes widened slightly at his words, a mix of curiosity and apprehension stirring inside her.
Meanwhile, miles away from the bustling Los Angeles streets, Detective Mark Reynolds was already piecing together the puzzle. His office was littered with photographs, receipts, and reports, each one connected to a case that had consumed him for weeks: the theft of a rare diamond necklace from Manhattan. The necklace wasn't just valuable, it was notorious, and the thief had been cunning enough to leave only subtle traces. Reynolds rubbed his temples, scanning a security camera feed from JFK. There, clearly visible, was Shane Sullivan, moving through the terminal with calm precision, slipping a small item into a woman's bag. "This is it," Reynolds muttered to himself, standing abruptly. "He's the one, Shane Sullivan. Got a good feeling about this one." He pulled out his phone and called his partner, Officer Linda Vega. "Linda, start pulling all his recent flight manifests. I want his connections, his hotel bookings, every step he's taken in the last month. This guy is meticulous, but he's not invisible." Linda's voice came over the line, calm but efficient.
On it, Mark. Let's see if we can catch him before he vanishes again. Reynolds nodded, already thinking ahead, the detective's mind racing with strategy and determination. Back in Los Angeles, Kennedy was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. She and Shane had spent the day exploring the city, finishing errands and laughing off minor disasters like spilled coffee and wrong turns. Kennedy was still adjusting to the chaos of Los Angeles life, but she felt strangely safe with Shane beside her, even as she remained oblivious to the weight of the necklace hidden in her bag. "You know," she said, flopping onto the hotel bed with a dramatic sigh, "if I survive this trip, I think I deserve a medal, or at least a vacation, maybe a spa day." Shane chuckled, shaking his head as he leaned against the wall. "A medal? Definitely. A spa day, probably after we solve a few small crimes first," he teased. Kennedy raised an eyebrow, unsure if he was joking. "Crimes? What crimes? Don't tell me you're secretly a detective or something." She grabbed her water bottle. Shane's eyes twinkled, but he shook his head. "Nope, just a man with a complicated past and a knack for navigating tight spots," he said smoothly. Kennedy smirked, sensing there was more to him than he let on, but didn't press the matter. Instead, she focused on organizing her things for the trip ahead, blissfully ignorant of the danger she was unknowingly carrying. Across town, Reynolds had narrowed down Shane's location to a hotel in West Los Angeles, thanks to flight manifests, credit card transactions, and subtle digital footprints. He studied the hotel's exterior through street view images, memorizing every detail. "He's smart, but predictable in a way only desperate people are," Reynolds muttered. "He's got someone with him, too, a woman, possibly a pawn, possibly an accomplice. Either way, I need to move fast." He grabbed his coat and badge, determination radiating from every movement. Time to pay a visit before he disappears again. Meanwhile, Shane and Kennedy had decided to unwind with dinner at a small bistro near the hotel. The warm glow of string lights and soft chatter created a cozy atmosphere, masking the tension that only Shane was aware of. Kennedy laughed at one of Shane's jokes, momentarily letting go of the fear that had been plaguing her since the flight. "You are ridiculous," she said between giggles. Shane shrugged, amused. "I prefer charmingly reckless, but I'll take ridiculous if you insist." Kennedy shook her head, a soft smile tugging at her lips. For the first time in days, she felt like she could breathe.
But the safety of the moment was fleeting. Shane's sharp eyes flicked toward the street outside, scanning for any unusual activity. He noticed a sleek black sedan parked across the road, its tinted windows obscuring the driver's face. His instincts kicked in, tension coiling in his shoulders. "Kennedy," he murmured under his breath, leaning slightly toward her. "Keep calm. Nothing to worry about, yet." Kennedy, sensing the subtle shift in his demeanor, frowned. "Shane, what's going on?" He gave her a reassuring smile, though his eyes betrayed concern. "Just dinner talk," he said lightly, brushing it off. As Reynolds approached the hotel, he kept his movements deliberate and measured. He didn't want to spook his target before gathering enough evidence. His mind was a well-oiled machine, calculating probabilities, anticipating escape routes, and preparing contingencies. "Stay sharp, Mark," he muttered to himself, scanning the entrance for signs of Shane Sullivan. The detective's instincts screamed that time was critical. The longer Shane and Kennedy stayed unaware, the harder it would be to intercept him. Inside the hotel room, Kennedy and Shane returned from dinner, chatting about the day's minor adventures. Kennedy flopped onto the bed again, exhausted yet exhilarated. "I can't believe how chaotic today has been," she said, letting out a deep sigh. Shane closed the door behind them and turned to face her. "Chaos has a way of finding you," he said softly, "and sometimes
It brings unexpected allies. Kennedy tilted her head, curious. Allies? Are you talking about me or someone else? Shane's lips curved into a faint smile. You, mostly, but also luck and timing. As the night deepened, Reynolds finally located Shane's room and prepared to make his move. He reviewed the floor plan in his mind, noting the security cameras, the hallway layout, and potential obstacles. This isn't just about a stolen necklace anymore. It's about catching someone clever, someone willing to risk a lot, and someone who might just disappear before I can stop him. He moved quietly down the corridor, every step calculated, every breath controlled. The tension in the air mirrored Shane's own sense of impending danger. Unaware of the detective closing in, Kennedy fell into an uneasy sleep, her hand resting on the strap of her handbag. She didn't know that hidden inside was the diamond necklace, the object of a relentless pursuit that could upend everything she had planned in Los Angeles. Shane, sitting by the window, kept a watchful eye on the hallway, his body tense and alert. He had always known the possibility of being caught existed, but he hadn't anticipated how quickly someone would get close. As the minutes stretched into hours, the city outside remained quiet, the hum of traffic and distant sirens the only interruptions. Reynolds paused near Shane's room, analyzing the situation. One wrong move, he whispered to himself, and this could all go sideways. But I can't wait. The necklace has to be recovered, and this guy, Sullivan, has to answer for what he's done. Inside, Shane subtly shifted, his instincts honed from years of navigating tight situations. The game of cat and mouse had begun, and neither side could afford a mistake. The night seemed calm, but danger was closing in. Kennedy, blissfully unaware, was about to wake to a reality far more complicated than any turbulence or misplaced luggage. Shane's protective instincts would be tested, Reynolds' determination would intensify, and the fragile balance between chaos, trust, and attraction would start to shift, forcing every player into a high-stakes game where one wrong move could change everything.
The flight from Los Angeles to Savannah, Georgia was uneventful, a stark contrast to Kennedy Jefferson's first disastrous journey to Los Angeles. She stared out the airplane window, marveling at the expanse of green fields and winding rivers below. Shane Sullivan sat beside her, quiet for once, seemingly content to watch her gaze out at the passing landscape. "You're awfully quiet," Kennedy said, breaking the silence, her voice soft yet curious. Shane tilted his head, a half smile on his lips. "Just appreciating the scenery," he replied. "Besides, you've been talking enough for both of us." Kennedy laughed, shaking her head. As the plane touched down at Savannah Hilton Head International Airport, Kennedy felt a rush of anticipation. The city's charm was immediately apparent. Cobblestone streets, moss-draped oaks, and historic brick buildings gave the air a sense of calm and nostalgia. Shane's hometown was a stark contrast to the hectic streets of Los Angeles. "It's beautiful," Kennedy murmured, taking it all in. Shane leaned closer, lowering his voice. "It has its moments, but wait until you meet my family. They're lively." Kennedy raised an eyebrow. "Lively? That's one way to describe it, I'm sure." They drove from the airport in Shane's sleek car, winding through the narrow streets until they reached a sprawling southern home, adorned with ivy and blooming flowers. The air smelled faintly of magnolias, and the windows glinted in the warm afternoon sun. Shane parked and stepped out first, gesturing for Kennedy to follow. "Welcome to Savannah," he said, his voice unusually gentle. Kennedy, carrying her handbag close, followed him up the brick path. She couldn't help but notice the subtle way Shane guided her through the entrance, protective yet unobtrusive. Inside, the house was alive with energy. Laughter, chatter, and the clinking of glasses echoed through the rooms as Shane's family mingled in preparation for Charlotte, or Charlie Sullivan's, engagement party. Kennedy's eyes widened as she took in the scene.
Shane's mother, a warm and commanding presence, hugged him tightly. His father gave a wry, amused smile, and Charlie herself flitted about, radiant and joyful. Kennedy's nerves threatened to bubble over. "Wow, your family is, a lot," she whispered to Shane. Shane smirked, leaning closer. "You're just getting started. They're, unforgettable." Shane introduced Kennedy to his mother, Claire Sullivan, who immediately enveloped her in a warm hug. "Oh, you must be Kennedy. Shane has told us so much about you," she said with a bright smile. Kennedy laughed nervously, returning the hug. "I hope it's all good things," she chuckled. "Mostly, dear, mostly. But we're very glad to have you here." Shane's father, Thomas, approached next, extending a hand. "Welcome, Kennedy. Shane doesn't usually talk this much about anyone, so consider it a compliment." Kennedy shook his hand, noting the kindness in his eyes, and felt a strange sense of ease despite the chaos surrounding her life. Charlie bounded over, practically glowing with excitement. "Kennedy, Shane's been hyping you up nonstop. You have to try the peach cobbler. They're famous around here." Kennedy laughed, following her to the kitchen. Shane watched the interaction with a subtle, fond expression. "See what I mean about lively?" he murmured to her. Kennedy glanced at him, sensing the pride and affection he held for his family. It was a side of Shane she hadn't seen before, a noble, caring side that contrasted sharply with his mischievous and secretive demeanor. As the evening wore on, Kennedy found herself drawn into the Sullivan family dynamic. Shane's younger siblings teased him relentlessly, while the adults engaged in playful banter that revealed a close-knit, loving household. Kennedy couldn't help but notice the contrast in Shane. The charm and recklessness she had witnessed in Los Angeles gave way to quiet respect and protective instincts around his family. At one point, she caught him subtly moving to intercept a glass falling before it shattered on the floor. "He's careful," she whispered to herself, a faint smile tugging at her lips.
Shane noticed her watching and leaned slightly closer. "That's one part of me you don't often see," he said quietly. Kennedy raised an eyebrow. "Careful? You mean not reckless?" Shane grinned faintly. "Let's just say some battles are worth fighting, and some chaos is better left outside these walls." Kennedy nodded, understanding the depth in his words. It was as if this serene southern home had stripped away layers of bravado, revealing a man both complex and deeply loyal. Dinner was a lively affair, filled with laughter, stories, and the clinking of glasses. Kennedy found herself sharing her own anecdotes, occasionally interrupted by Shane's playful teasing. "And that's how I almost caused a full-blown panic on a flight," she said, finishing her story. Shane smirked. "And somehow you survived. Barely." Kennedy laughed, shaking her head. "Don't remind me. I'll never live it down." Shane's eyes softened. "You did more than survive. You adapted. That counts for a lot." Kennedy blinked at him, struck by the sincerity in his tone. Later, as the party preparations continued, Kennedy and Shane stepped out onto the veranda, overlooking the sprawling garden. The night air was warm, scented with jasmine, and the soft glow of lanterns cast a magical ambiance over the backyard. Kennedy exhaled deeply, feeling a rare sense of calm. "I can't believe this place," she murmured. "It's peaceful, almost surreal." Shane stood beside her, silent for a moment before speaking. "Savannah has a way of showing what really matters," he said softly. "Family, trust, connections. Things you don't always see in the chaos of city life." Kennedy turned to him, intrigued. "You mean like this side of you? The one your family sees?" Shane's gaze met hers, steady and intense. "Exactly. The side that matters most," he said quietly. Kennedy felt a flicker in her chest, something more than curiosity, more than admiration. It was a subtle warmth, a realization that the man she had begun to rely on wasn't just a charming stranger, but someone with depth, honor, and hidden vulnerabilities. As the night drew to a close, Kennedy lay in bed reflecting on the day. Shane's playful audacity, his protective instincts, and the noble side she had witnessed today painted a complex, intriguing picture of the man who had captured her curiosity and, unknowingly, her heart. Savannah had become more than a stop on her journey. It was the place where chaos met calm and where Kennedy realized that Shane Sullivan was no ordinary man.
The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the Sullivan home, casting a warm glow across the living room. Kennedy Jefferson sat on the sofa, still in awe of the charm and vibrancy of Shane's hometown. She had spent the previous night navigating a delicate mix of intrigue, family festivities, and her own growing curiosity about the man who had swept her into this whirlwind of chaos. Shane, meanwhile, moved about the kitchen, preparing coffee with an ease that suggested familiarity with the ritual, his brow slightly furrowed in thought. Kennedy finally gathered the courage to speak. "Shane, can we talk?" she asked quietly, hesitant but determined. Shane glanced over his shoulder, his piercing eyes meeting hers. "About what?" he replied, though his tone suggested he already knew what she meant. Kennedy swallowed nervously. "About the necklace?" Shane's expression tightened imperceptibly, and he set the coffee pot down. "You mean the diamond?" Kennedy nodded, feeling her heart rate quicken. "Yes. Look, I don't fully understand why you did what you did, but I want to." Shane's eyes softened, and he gestured for her to sit.
Kennedy settled onto the sofa, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her bag. Shane took a seat opposite her, his voice low and serious. "I didn't steal that necklace for greed or for myself," he began. "It wasn't about money. It was about saving a life. My nephew, he needs a heart transplant urgently. His insurance won't cover it fully, and I didn't know where else to turn." Kennedy's eyes widened, disbelief and admiration mixing in equal measure. "You risked everything for him?" she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Shane nodded, his jaw tight. "Everything. My freedom, my reputation, it didn't matter. Only his life." Kennedy felt a rush of emotions, shock, admiration, and a growing respect for the man in front of her. "Shane, that's incredible," she said softly. "I mean, you could have walked away, done nothing, and avoided all this mess. But you didn't. You risked so much for family." Shane looked away for a moment, almost embarrassed by her praise. "Family is everything," he murmured. "I'd do anything for them. I'm not proud of the method, but the cause, I can't ignore it." Kennedy's mind raced, and she reached into her handbag, almost instinctively. "Shane, I already have the necklace," she said, pulling it out carefully and placing it on the coffee table. Shane blinked, astonished, and leaned forward. "You... what?" Kennedy nodded, her fingers fidgeting nervously. "And, well, I haven't told anyone yet, but I want to help. I want to make sure your nephew gets what he needs." Shane's face softened completely, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and disbelief crossing his features. "Kennedy, you don't know what this means," Shane said, his voice thick with emotion. This could save his life." Kennedy gave a small, determined nod. "I know, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help. I don't even care about the trouble it could cause me. I want to make a difference. And maybe it'll also help me figure out my own mess with Nelson." Shane raised an eyebrow, a small, amused smirk tugging at his lips. "Mess with Nelson? So this isn't just about the diamond?" Kennedy huffed softly, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "Well, partly, but right now, helping you is more important." Shane's eyes softened further, and he leaned back, running a hand over his face. "You know, most people wouldn't do this. Most people would just hand it back and walk away." Kennedy shrugged, a tempting nonchalance, but failing to hide the warmth in her chest. "I'm not most people. Besides, someone who survives chaos on planes, hotel heists, and LA adventures, helping you seems like a fair exchange."
Shane chuckled quietly, shaking his head. "You're impossible, but I like that about you." Kennedy felt her stomach flutter at his words, but quickly shook it off, reminding herself that her mission to win back Nelson was still her top priority.
Over the next hour, they worked out a plan. Shane explained the logistics of getting the necklace safely to the hospital fund account for his nephew, detailing steps to avoid raising suspicion while ensuring the money would reach its intended destination. Kennedy listened intently, absorbing every detail, feeling both nervous and empowered. "Okay, so we need to move the necklace tonight, discreetly," Shane said, his tone precise but calm. Kennedy nodded. "I can do that. I'll handle it. You focus on everything else." As they spoke, Shane's tone softened unexpectedly. "Kennedy, I need you to know something. This isn't just about the necklace or my nephew. I trust you, more than I've trusted anyone in a long time. That's why I can tell you all this." Kennedy blinked, touched by the vulnerability in his voice. "Shane, I promise I won't let you down," she said sincerely, meeting his gaze. There was a pause, a quiet moment where the world seemed to narrow to just the two of them, their shared purpose binding them together in an unspoken bond. Kennedy's mind briefly wandered to Nelson, the man she had come to Los Angeles to win back. She felt a pang of guilt, realizing how much her feelings for Shane were beginning to complicate her plans. "Shane, about Nelson," she began, hesitantly. Shane gave her a curious look. "Yeah?" She took a deep breath. "I'm still going to try, but maybe things won't go exactly as I planned." Shane's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Plans rarely survive the kind of chaos you seem to attract. But sometimes, the unexpected can be worth it." Kennedy laughed softly, a little embarrassed. "You make it sound so easy." Shane's expression softened. "It's not easy. It's life. Messy, unpredictable, and sometimes it surprises you in the best possible ways." Kennedy felt her heart skip a beat at the words, the way he said them, as if he understood her better than anyone else ever had. She quickly shifted focus back to the task at hand. "Right. Necklace, nephew, mission. Let's get this done before anything else goes wrong." They prepared for the discreet transfer, Shane carefully instructing Kennedy on how to hand over the necklace without attracting attention. Kennedy followed every instruction to the letter, her heart pounding with the adrenaline of responsibility. "Shane, are you sure about all this?" she asked quietly as they made their way to the courier service. Shane's jaw tightened slightly, but he nodded. "It's the only way, and with you handling it, I feel like it's possible." Kennedy smiled faintly, feeling a mix of fear and exhilaration. As Kennedy handed over the necklace, Shane watched her closely, pride and gratitude written across his face. The transaction was swift and discreet, and soon the diamond would be converted into funds for his nephew's surgery. Kennedy exhaled, a rush of relief washing over her. "It's done," she whispered. Shane's eyes softened, and he took her hand briefly, a gesture filled with silent thanks. "Kennedy, you have no idea how much this means," he said quietly. Kennedy felt a warmth in her chest, a realization that this man, once a stranger, a mystery, a chaos bringer, had become someone she deeply respected and cared for. Walking back to the Sullivan home, the weight of the necklace finally lifted. Kennedy allowed herself a small smile. Shane walked beside her, his presence calm yet protective. "You did more than help a family," Shane said quietly. "You reminded me there's still good in people, still trust worth giving. And maybe you reminded me of myself." Kennedy glanced at him, startled by the vulnerability in his voice. For the first time, she truly saw Shane, not just the charming rogue, not just the mischievous stranger.
but the man who had risked everything for love and family. As they re-entered the house, Kennedy knew their bond had deepened in a way she couldn't ignore. The chaos of Los Angeles, the turbulence of the flight, the theft and the near disasters had led them here. And now, despite the looming question of Nelson and her own unresolved feelings, she realized that helping Shane had changed her. And perhaps, just perhaps, the unexpected path was the one worth following.
The sun hung low over Malibu Beach, casting a golden glow over the waves as they lapped gently at the shore. Kennedy Jefferson and Shane Sullivan parked a short distance away, hidden behind a row of palm trees, their eyes fixed on the scene before them. Nelson Welch lounged casually on a beach chair, Nicole Jordan at his side, both laughing easily, the warmth of the sun highlighting their carefree demeanor. Kennedy's chest tightened with a mix of anger, sadness, and determination. "There they are," she muttered, gripping Shane's arm. "And I can't believe he's just there, with her." Shane's eyes followed her gaze, his jaw tightening slightly. Kennedy took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "I'm going to win him back," she whispered, more to herself than to Shane. Shane gave her a sidelong glance, a teasing smirk tugging at his lips. "Sure. Just remind me again. Why are we doing this?" Kennedy shot him a pointed look. "Because he's mine, or at least he was supposed to be, and I'm not giving up that easily." Shane shook his head, clearly amused. "All right then, let's see if Malibu can handle our theatrics." As they approached, Shane slipped his hand subtly around Kennedy's waist, guiding her with ease. They entered the beach area with casual confidence, Shane positioning himself so that Kennedy appeared completely at ease by his side. Nelson's head snapped up as he noticed them, and Kennedy felt a thrill run through her. Shane leaned in, speaking just low enough for her to hear. "Relax, I'm your boyfriend for the day. Let's see if we can get him to remember what he's missing." Kennedy bit back a smile, shaking her head. "This is ridiculous," she whispered, though she couldn't deny the excitement fluttering in her stomach. Nelson's eyes narrowed as he recognized her, the easy smirk slipping from his face. Nicole, seated beside him, tilted her head in curiosity. "Kennedy? What?" Nelson began, clearly caught off guard. Shane placed a confident arm across Kennedy's shoulders, drawing her close. "Hey, Nelson," Shane said smoothly. "I didn't realize Malibu had so many familiar faces." Kennedy smiled faintly, letting Shane's presence bolster her courage. "Hi, Nelson," she said, her voice calm and measured, though her heart raced. Nelson's confusion deepened, but Shane's casual charm only heightened the effect. "You two together?" he asked, his tone laced with suspicion and something else, perhaps jealousy. Shane smiled faintly. "Of course. Kennedy and we've been inseparable lately." Kennedy felt a pang in her chest at the thought, but she reminded herself that this was strategy. "Yes," she added smoothly. "I'm finally seeing things clearly, and I realized I needed someone who understands me, someone who can handle everything." Shane gave her an approving glance, and Nelson's face tightened. Nicole's eyes narrowed, a flash of irritation crossing her features. "Really, Kennedy," she said, attempting to sound superior. "After all this time, you're with him?" Kennedy's smile was polite, yet infused with subtle confidence. "Yes, Nicole, it seems like we're compatible," she said, letting the words hang in the salty air. Shane's smirk broadened subtly, sensing the small shift in the dynamics. Nelson, meanwhile, appeared unsettled, shifting in his seat, his gaze flicking nervously between them. Kennedy felt a surge of empowerment, though a small voice in her chest whispered that the feelings she had been denying for Shane were growing stronger. "He's protective," she murmured quietly to Shane, who raised an eyebrow. "Protective? About me?" Shane leaned closer, voice low and teasing. "About pretending to be your boyfriend, yes, but don't let it go to your head yet." Kennedy chuckled, though the warmth in her chest made her heart flutter unexpectedly. As the afternoon sun began to dip, Kennedy had decided to employ another tactic.
She straightened, tilting her chin with a mixture of pride and feigned arrogance. "You know, Nelson, things have changed. I've, acquired a few assets since we last spoke. My family, it seems, has more resources than before. I've been managing some investments, and, life has been rather kind." Shane arched an eyebrow, impressed, though inwardly amused. Kennedy's strategy was working. She was presenting herself as the woman Nelson had once admired, now amplified by confidence and wealth.
Nelson's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Nicole, sensing the shift in his attention, stiffened, clearly wary. "Assets? Investments?" Nelson asked, his voice laced with curiosity and a hint of unease. Kennedy smiled, leaning lightly against Shane. "Yes, Nelson, I've learned a lot since New York, and I'm not someone to underestimate." Shane, standing beside her, played his part effortlessly, wrapping an arm around her shoulder and giving Nelson a pointed, possessive glance. Despite the confidence she projected, Kennedy couldn't ignore the subtle pull she felt toward Shane. His steady presence, protective yet playful, made her chest ache in ways she hadn't anticipated. She realized with a start that the feelings she had been carefully ignoring were growing too strong to deny. But for now, she pushed them aside, focusing on the goal, making Nelson see what he was losing. Nelson, struggling with a mix of frustration and jealousy, finally spoke. "Kennedy, I didn't expect this. I thought maybe I could, convince you otherwise." Kennedy tilted her head, her smile softening. "Nelson, people change. I've changed. And I think you're realizing that some things can't be undone," she said gently, letting the weight of her words sink in. Shane's protective grip tightened slightly, emphasizing the unspoken message that Kennedy was no longer the person Nelson thought he could control. Nicole, clearly irritated and sensing her influence waning, spoke sharply. "Well, this is unexpected," she said, her tone strained. Kennedy offered a polite, calculated smile. "Unexpected can be exciting," she said lightly. Shane chuckled softly, his arm still draped around her shoulders. "Isn't that right?" he added, emphasizing the unity between them. Kennedy's confidence surged as she realized the strategy was working. Nelson's attention had shifted, Nicole's composure was faltering, and Shane's quiet, steady presence was proving more influential than she had anticipated. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the sand, Kennedy took a moment to glance at Shane. His dark eyes held a flicker of something she couldn't quite identify. Pride, amusement, or perhaps a hint of something more. She felt her chest tighten, the realization sinking in. This adventure with Shane had changed her in ways she hadn't anticipated. Her plan to win Nelson back was becoming complicated by the undeniable pull she felt toward the man at her side. Shane, noticing her gaze, whispered quietly, "Feeling conflicted?" Kennedy swallowed hard, nodding ever so slightly. "A little, but I have to stay focused." Shane's lips curved into a faint, understanding smile. "Focus can be overrated. Sometimes the heart knows what it wants before the mind does." Kennedy felt her breath catch at his words, a strange warmth spreading through her chest. She quickly redirected her attention to Nelson, reminding herself that the mission wasn't over yet. As the group began to pack up and leave the beach, Kennedy walked beside Shane, feeling a mix of triumph and uncertainty. Nelson looked on, frustrated but contemplative, while Nicole's irritation was barely concealed. Kennedy realized that Malibu Beach had been the perfect stage for her first steps toward reclaiming her future, though she also understood that her heart was now tangled in ways she hadn't anticipated. Shane's presence was a steady anchor, even as the complexities of love, jealousy, and loyalty swirled around her. Walking back to the car, Shane leaned closer, his voice low and teasing. "You did well today," he said. Kennedy's cheeks warmed slightly. "We did well," she corrected, unable to deny the teamwork between them. Shane smirked, clearly amused, but the warmth in his eyes betrayed his feelings. "All right, fair enough.
We make a good team, Kennedy. Just don't forget who's been keeping you calm through all the chaos." Kennedy smiled faintly, realizing with a quiet thrill that the chaos, and Shane, was becoming harder to resist with every passing moment.
The soft glow of string lights and the faint scent of ocean breeze set a festive atmosphere at Nicole Jordan's beachfront birthday party. Kennedy Jefferson stepped lightly over the sand, trying to maintain her composure as she followed Shane Sullivan through the crowd. The waves crashed gently in the background, but all Kennedy could hear was the hammering of her own heart. Nelson Welch was there, as charming and confident as ever, chatting and laughing with Nicole, the woman who had stolen his attention. Kennedy felt a pang of bitterness, quickly masking it with a practiced smile. Shane leaned close, his voice low and teasing. "Remember, act natural, smile, laugh, and maybe have a little fun while we watch the chaos unfold." Kennedy offered a wry glance at him. Natural? Smiling? Fun? "Shane, you do realize I'm standing in the middle of a party where the man I love is engaged to another woman." Shane's eyes twinkled with amusement, though there was a subtle softness hidden beneath his expression. "Exactly why we're here. If you can survive that, you can survive anything." Nicole, radiant in a sequined dress, raised her glass to the gathered guests, her voice bright and commanding. "Thank you all for coming. Tonight isn't just about my birthday, it's also about celebrating new beginnings." Guests cheered, raising their glasses in unison. Kennedy felt her stomach knot as she realized the direction this celebration was taking. Shane subtly placed a reassuring hand on her lower back, grounding her, and she drew in a steadying breath. "I can do this," she whispered quietly. Nelson, standing beside Nicole, looked across the crowd and caught sight of Kennedy and Shane approaching. His expression tightened slightly, though he quickly masked it with a polite smile. Kennedy felt her chest constrict, the old familiar pang of longing and heartbreak resurfacing. "Kennedy," Nelson said smoothly, "you made it. Glad you could join us." Kennedy returned the smile, her voice calm, yet edged with subtle tension. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Nelson." Shane's arm remained lightly around her, adding an air of quiet authority to their presence. Nicole clinked her glass to get everyone's attention, she said, her eyes glinting with excitement. Kennedy's stomach dropped. Shane subtly shifted closer, sensing her tension. "Nelson and I are engaged." Nicole's words rang across the crowd, and the ensuing cheers and applause seemed almost deafening to Kennedy. She forced a polite smile, though her heart felt like it had been punched. Shane's hand gave hers a gentle squeeze, grounding her in the moment, but he wisely let her emotions flow without interference. Kennedy retreated slightly to the side, her mind spinning. She had imagined this scene countless times, the confrontation, the declaration, the heartbreak, but nothing had prepared her for the weight of it in reality. Shane watched her carefully, his dark eyes reflecting a mixture of concern and something Kennedy couldn't yet define. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Kennedy shook her head, laughing bitterly. "Okay? I just watched the man I love get engaged to another woman. How do you think I'm doing?" Shane's expression softened, and he leaned closer. "Heartbreak doesn't look good on anyone, but you're handling it better than I would." Kennedy exhaled sharply, struggling to keep her composure. I thought I could control this. I thought I could play my part, win him back, maybe even make him regret it. But seeing it, it's worse than I imagined." Shane's voice was gentle, careful. "Sometimes, no matter how much we plan, life has a way of showing us what we're really meant to see. And maybe it's not about Nelson anymore." Kennedy's stomach fluttered as she realized the weight of his words, yet she pushed down the thought, still clinging to her original mission. The party carried on, laughter and music blending with the rhythmic sound of the waves. Kennedy wandered toward the edge of the beach, letting the soft sand shift beneath her feet. Shane followed silently, giving her space, but remaining close enough to offer support. I don't know what to do now," Kennedy admitted quietly, her voice tinged with vulnerability. Shane's gaze met hers, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. "Then maybe, just don't do anything for a little while. Just Be here. Feel it. Let it all out.
Kennedy looked at him, the realization settling in slowly. The man who had been her ally, her partner in chaos, her protector and confidant, was someone she was beginning to care for, deeply. Shane's quiet strength, his wit, and the glimpses of vulnerability she had seen in Savannah had left an imprint on her heart she could no longer ignore. Yet, despite the intensity of the moment, she kept her feelings carefully hidden, uncertain of what he might feel, or if he even noticed. Nelson approached, his expression a tempting charm, but faltering under the weight of Kennedy's composed, though strained, demeanor. "Kennedy, I didn't expect to see you here," he said, his tone uncertain. Kennedy smiled faintly, maintaining poise. "I wanted to see you happy, Nelson. Truly," she replied softly, the words genuine, yet tinged with quiet sadness. Shane remained by her side, his presence like a silent shield, his eyes narrowing subtly as he observed Nelson's nervousness. Nicole, seemingly oblivious to the subtle tension, ushered everyone toward the cake. Kennedy lingered back, watching Shane interact effortlessly with the guests, his charm balanced by the kindness he displayed toward everyone around him. She felt a pang of something bittersweet, a growing affection she hadn't anticipated. "Shane," she whispered, almost to herself. He glanced at her, curiosity flickering in his eyes. "Yes?" She shook her head, forcing a smile. "Nothing, just thank you for being here." Shane's smile softened, a quiet warmth radiating in the dim glow of the party lights. The night progressed, and the guests began to depart, leaving the trio near the water's edge. Kennedy watched Nelson and Nicole, hand in hand, their laughter echoing in the gentle breeze. Shane's presence beside her felt increasingly important, anchoring her in a way she hadn't expected. "I can't do this anymore," she admitted quietly, almost to herself. Shane's hand brushed hers gently. "Do what?" he asked softly, his voice filled with quiet concern. Kennedy hesitated, then shook her head. "I can't keep pretending that I only care about Nelson. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm starting to feel something for you." Shane's gaze softened, though he said nothing, letting her words linger between them. He remained close, supportive, but careful not to push, sensing the delicate balance of her emotions. Kennedy turned her gaze toward the water, the reflection of the moon dancing on the waves. Her heart ached with the realization that the man she had thought she wanted, Nelson, was no longer the one she needed. Instead, it was Shane, quiet, patient, and steadfast, who had begun to occupy her thoughts in ways she hadn't anticipated. Despite the warmth growing in her chest, she kept her feelings carefully hidden, uncertain of Shane's feelings, and unwilling to risk complicating the delicate situation further. She smiled faintly, a bittersweet curve of her lips. "For now, I'll let this moment be enough," she whispered to herself. Shane, reading her expression, gave a small, understanding nod. He too carried his secret quietly, his own feelings mirrored in the subtle glance he gave her. Neither spoke further, yet the unspoken connection between them was palpable, as if the ocean breeze itself carried their shared understanding. As the party wound down, Kennedy felt a mixture of heartbreak, relief, and burgeoning hope. Nelson and Nicole's engagement had been confirmed. Her plan to win him back had failed, but something new and unexpected had begun to root in her heart. Shane remained by her side, silent but supportive, his mere presence a quiet reassurance. Kennedy realized that sometimes the twists of fate were more complicated than she could predict, but perhaps, just perhaps, the right person had been there all along.
The night ended with a final toast, the ocean waves echoing softly in the background. Kennedy stood beside Shane, heart heavy with unresolved emotions, yet lighter with the growing awareness of what truly mattered. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to feel, not just heartbreak, but possibility, hope, and the subtle stirrings of a love that had been quietly forming all along. And as the moonlight reflected on the water, Kennedy silently acknowledged that her journey was far from over, but that the path forward might just be brighter than she had ever imagined.
The soft hum of Los Angeles traffic filled the late afternoon as Kennedy Jefferson stepped out of the hotel lobby, her luggage already checked in and her mind racing with a mixture of anxiety and determination. The events of the past few days had left her reeling. The plane chaos, Shane's mysterious antics, and her increasingly complicated feelings. She thought she was prepared for anything, but she hadn't anticipated Detective Mark Reynolds tracking her down with a truth she wasn't ready to face. As she adjusted her purse strap and glanced around the bustling street, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Kennedy Jefferson," the detective called, stepping out from the shadows of a nearby cafe. His tone was firm, no nonsense, carrying an air of authority that immediately put her on edge. Kennedy froze, her heart thudding in her chest. "Detective Reynolds," she said cautiously, forcing a calm she didn't feel. The man's sharp gaze locked onto hers, and she immediately knew she had been found out. "I need to speak with you, now," he stated, his hands on his hips. Shane had told her little of the law's reach, but she hadn't realized it could catch up so fast. Kennedy hesitated, torn between fear and the urgent need to protect Shane. "Detective, I don't—" Reynolds cut her off, his tone unwavering. "Don't lie to me, Miss Jefferson. I know about Shane Sullivan and the diamond necklace from Manhattan. You've been carrying it." Kennedy's stomach sank, her hand instinctively clutching her purse. The truth she had been keeping, her secret understanding of Shane's noble cause, was now hanging precariously in the open. I didn't know it was stolen," she said carefully, her voice tinged with honesty and guilt. Reynolds raised an eyebrow, his scrutiny unrelenting. "You may not have known the full story, but possession still implicates you. I need the necklace returned immediately." Kennedy swallowed hard, feeling a surge of panic. She knew Shane's intentions were good. He wasn't a criminal in the conventional sense, but the law didn't care about motives. "Detective, before you make any assumptions," she began, searching for a way to explain without betraying him entirely. "I understand your duty, and I'll cooperate, but there's more to this story than you realize." Reynolds' gaze softened slightly, though he remained firm. "Then tell me, Miss Jefferson, convince me. Why should I believe Shane Sullivan isn't just a common thief?" Kennedy took a deep breath, knowing the time for secrecy had come. He's trying to save someone's life," she said quietly. "His nephew, he needs a heart transplant urgently, and Shane didn't have the means to fund it. He took the necklace to convert it into money for the surgery. It wasn't about greed, it was about family." Reynolds studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Kennedy continued, her voice growing steadier. I have the necklace now. I was going to help him, but I understand the law must be upheld. I'll return it to you." She reached into her purse, pulling out the small velvet box carefully, holding it out toward Reynolds. "Here," she said softly, "this is the necklace." The detective accepted it with a nod, his eyes lingering on her a moment longer. "Miss Jefferson, you're making the right choice, but I can't ignore the circumstances. You've put yourself in a very precarious position." Kennedy nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and sorrow. "I understand, Detective, and I'll accept any consequences. But please, understand why he did it. He's not a criminal. He's trying to save a life that depends on him." Reynolds' stern expression softened slightly. "I'll note that in my report."
But right now, the necklace must be secured. That's my priority." Kennedy exhaled, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly, though a gnawing worry remained about Shane and his nephew. As Reynolds walked away, leaving her on the sidewalk, Kennedy pulled out her phone and quickly opened her banking app. Her mind raced with a plan, one last act of defiance and compassion combined. She couldn't let Shane's efforts go to waste, not after everything he had done. With trembling fingers, she transferred all her savings from her New York account into the account Reynolds had verified for the hospital fund, ensuring the surgery would proceed. "This will get him through," she whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. "It has to." The decision weighed heavily on her, but a sense of purpose steadied her resolve. She knew she couldn't stay in Los Angeles any longer, not after the chaos, not after the heartbreak, and certainly not after putting herself in the middle of a police investigation. With a sigh, she began packing her bag, her heart heavy with the knowledge that she was leaving Shane without a proper goodbye. She could only hope he understood and that he would forgive her for disappearing without explanation. Kennedy walked toward the airport, her mind replaying the last few days in a whirlwind of emotions. The flight, the stolen necklace, the tumultuous adventures through LA, and the bittersweet realizations about Shane. All of it surged through her thoughts. She reminded herself that she had done the right thing, ensuring the nephew's life was saved and returning the necklace to the authorities. Yet the ache in her chest reminded her of the personal sacrifices she had made along the way. As she passed through security at LAX, Kennedy felt a familiar tug of anxiety. This time, however, it wasn't about flying. It was about leaving Shane behind. She imagined his dark eyes, the subtle warmth behind his teasing, the quiet strength he had shown in every chaotic moment they shared. She shook her head, attempting to quell the emotions threatening to surface. "I'll come back," she whispered to herself, hoping that fate would allow her to reunite with him soon. Meanwhile, Shane had been frantically trying to reach her, unaware of her departure. At the hotel, he had been pacing the lobby, phone in hand, his jaw set tight in frustration. When he saw Kennedy's flight status update, confirming she was leaving, his chest tightened with both relief and despair. Relief that her clever plan with the necklace had succeeded, despair that she had gone without letting him know. He ran his hand over his face, muttering under his breath, "Kennedy, why do you always have to make things so complicated?" Back on the plane, Kennedy settled into her seat, staring out at the endless clouds stretching below. She tried to distract herself with thoughts of New York, returning to her normal life and the certainty of routine. But no matter how she focused, Shane's presence lingered in her mind. The mischievous smile, the protective instincts, the moments of quiet understanding that had slowly, imperceptibly, changed the course of her heart. She took a deep breath, allowing herself a small, private smile. "Maybe this isn't the end," she murmured. As the plane lifted into the sky, Kennedy reflected on everything she had learned over the past days, about courage, love, sacrifice, and unexpected connections. She had seen Shane risk everything for the sake of another life, had learned to trust someone in ways she hadn't before, and had finally confronted the messy truth of her own feelings.